A chilling and bizarre mystery has recently shocked multiple states after a series of strange events connected to Lori Vallotte Deal, a former beauty queen turned religious zealot. Once celebrated for her charm and grace as a beauty contestant, Lori now finds herself at the center of a harrowing investigation following threats of violence, mysterious disappearances, and murder. According to reports, Lori Vallotte Deal, who has suffered from severe mental instability, now believes she is a resurrected deity with divine powers. This delusion has reportedly made her a danger to herself and those around her. Witnesses familiar with Lori before her mental unraveling recalled her as the Mother of the Year, a woman once celebrated for her kind, nurturing nature. However, things took a dark turn, leading her to make threats of murder, stating that her powers made her capable of taking extreme actions. 6 months ago, a series of events unfolded that led to her first major crime. Val was fatally shot and later pronounced dead. Police later discovered a man with gunshot wounds who was identified as Val. Law enforcement officials have described this as the first death tied to this growing multi-state mystery. Following this incident, authorities were led to Charles Val, Lori's estranged husband, whose lifeless body was found on the living room floor under mysterious circumstances. According to reports, before his death, Charles expressed that he no longer recognized his wife, claiming she had threatened him directly. One chilling statement reportedly made by Charles was, "You are not Charles. I don't know who you are or what you did with Charles, but I can kill you now with my powers." This leads investigators to ask, how was Lori such a danger to others and herself? Where are her 2 missing children? Reports indicate that the children, identified as J.J. Vallow and Ty Ryan, have now been missing for approximately 4 months. Their status is yet unknown, and there is growing concern about Lori's intentions. Some reports speculate that she might have fled with them or intends to harm them. Police officials are investigating all possibilities. The mystery reportedly began on January 31, 2019, when Charles returned from a business trip only to discover he had been locked out of his house. Lori and their 2 children, J.J. and Ty, were missing, and his car had also vanished. Further investigation revealed that a large sum of cash had been withdrawn from his bank account, leading Charles to reach out to law enforcement in hopes of answers. In a 911 call at the time, Charles expressed his growing concerns, saying, "I can't get in touch with our kids. She's lost her mind. She thinks she's a resurrected being. She thinks she's a god and that the second coming of Christ is imminent." His fears intensified as Lori had become increasingly obsessed with religious teachings linked to the 144,000, a group described in apocalyptic doctrines as high priests who will bring the everlasting gospel to the world. Sources revealed that Lori's mental instability had worsened over the past few years, exacerbated by her religious studies and beliefs. It was believed that she came under the influence of a cult-like group called Preparing a People, a group with apocalyptic visions and beliefs about evil spirits and the second coming of Christ. One of the individuals connected to this group is Chad Deal, a known religious figure who has espoused end-times theories that deeply resonated with Lori's mental spiral. Charles Val was reportedly deeply concerned for both his safety and that of his children due to Lori's beliefs. According to sources, threats of violence against her husband escalated. Reports suggest that Lori had accused Charles of infidelity and later isolated him from his family and his home. As of late, Charles was attempting to regain custody of his children while trying to secure his own safety through legal channels. However, matters escalated further. On one occasion, Charles reportedly discovered Lori's car at a school parking lot but found no sign of her presence. Despite this, it became evident that Lori was actively evading authorities. In a strange turn of events, Charles reportedly took her purse, hoping it would prevent her escape, but this action spiraled into additional chaos. In a subsequent police encounter, Lori appeared at the Gilbert police station to report her missing purse, presenting her side of the story. Her narrative claimed theft by Charles, accusing him of stealing her belongings as an act of retaliation. This accusation further complicated matters as law enforcement investigated the mental health claims surrounding Lori's spiraling behavior. Despite attempts to intervene by petitioning mental health officials, Lori was assessed and released, only to return to her dangerous behavior shortly thereafter. This decision, authorities say, allowed further violence to unfold. 6 months later, Charles was killed under mysterious circumstances, his body found with 2 gunshot wounds at Lori's residence. The police investigation is ongoing, but evidence suggests that his death may have been a direct result of Lori's unstable mental state and threats made in the past. Following his death, the status of their 2 missing children remains a grave concern. Questions loom large about whether Lori intends to harm them or flee with them. The investigation continues as police search for leads to locate the children and uncover what motivated Lori's descent into mental instability and violence. Authorities have called this a complex case involving mental health, family custody disputes, and possible cult activity. Investigators are working hard to determine Lori's mental state, as well as what role her beliefs and alleged influences played in the chain of tragic events. The shocking mystery raises many questions. What triggered this psychological breakdown? How many more lives will be affected as this case unfolds? And, most importantly, where are the 2 missing children? The investigation remains ongoing, and officials are urging anyone with information to come forward as they try to untangle this web of violence, disappearance, and psychological torment. An investigation has confirmed that the shooter involved in the recent incident is Alex Cox, a man linked by blood to Lori Vallow, who has provided critical insights into the situation. The investigation continues to raise troubling questions as statements conflict, and the timeline becomes more convoluted. According to reports, the initial confrontation began with a heated argument. Witnesses say Alex Cox entered the home intending to pick up his son, who was allegedly absent from the house at the time. When questioned by investigators, Alex's answers were inconsistent and vague. "He came at me with a bat," Alex reportedly explained, though his recollection of events seemed hesitant. When asked if Alex was living in the house or simply visiting, it was clarified that he had arrived to pick up his son but did not stay. "No, my sister took him to school," a witness confirmed. Despite this, Alex's explanations regarding his intentions and the events that unfolded seemed unclear. Investigators pressed Alex for further details about the encounter, uncovering that the argument escalated due to a series of exchanges with family members. "It was over my sister," Alex reportedly explained, suggesting that a physical altercation occurred as tensions heightened. Witnesses described a verbal altercation escalating when Alex reportedly became physical with members of the family. During the investigation, it was revealed that Tyler, a relative, attempted to intervene with a bat to defend her mother from the altercation. "She poked at him, and then he took it away," one witness reported. However, as tensions escalated, Alex reportedly retreated to another part of the house to retrieve his gun. When asked by police why he did not just close himself off in a bedroom, Alex's explanation was troubling. "I always carry a gun," he reportedly stated, adding that his intentions were self-protective. This admission further complicated his claim of self-defense. Critics argue that if Alex's intent was merely to defend himself, his decision to retrieve the weapon and confront his opponent directly undermines his narrative. Instead of barricading himself, Alex allegedly took a direct approach, leading directly to the shooting of Charles Vallow, a key victim in the investigation. Police, puzzled by these revelations, decided to interrogate all parties involved to establish a clearer timeline and determine the motive behind the incident. Statements suggest that Alex had recently moved into a new residence with his family as part of an agreement with his ex-wife Lori. This house, reportedly financed by Alex himself, became the backdrop for strained family relationships and frequent arguments. Lori provided a detailed account of her personal history with Charles Vallow, describing him as having a violent temper and a history of aggression in their relationship. He has gotten physical, Laurie explained, and it has caused problems over the years. Reports claim that these altercations were so severe that Tyler and Laurie were often forced to leave their shared home temporarily to escape confrontations. Despite these claims, Charles's ex-wife Cheryl, who was married to Charles before Laurie, denied any instance of physical violence. Cheryl stated in her report, "He was never physically threatening to me." This stark contradiction creates further complexity in establishing the truth. Police were also alerted to a series of threatening text messages that further painted Alex's mental state in a troubling light. Cheryl and other witnesses confirmed that Alex had expressed frustration and paranoia about his personal life. His alleged emotional instability adds to the layers of suspicion as investigators attempt to piece together the events leading to Charles's death. Adding to the tension was the presence of multiple family members caught in the crossfire. One witness explained that Tyler had attempted to confront Alex after witnessing his aggressive behavior. This confrontation escalated when Tyler brandished a bat, which witnesses claim may have triggered Alex's violent response. Reports state that this confrontation coincided with Alex's demands for a phone, fueling speculation about his intent and mental state. As more details emerge from ongoing interrogations, the situation reveals both a personal and legal conflict rooted in strained family relationships and unresolved grievances. With the investigation ongoing, the community waits for clarity about what transpired and what will come next for all involved parties. The shooting has left many asking, was it truly self-defense, or does this represent a deeper, more complex family dynamic spiraling out of control? Police continue to gather evidence and question witnesses as they search for answers. But he grabbed a bat from Ty and then went to hit Ty with the bat. I was right there. They were right there. My brother grabbed him from behind to stop him from hitting Ty. They got into it, and he was hitting him with the bat while they were on the ground, grappling. And then he hit your brother with the bat while they were grappling and stuff, yes. But there are lingering questions left by the investigation. One example is that the autopsy ruled one of the gunshots impacted while Charles was on the ground. Imagine being in a situation where you have no choice but to shoot someone. You'd probably freeze up and do everything you could to avoid finishing the job, only incapacitating them instead. So it seems strange that Alex decided to shoot Charles a second time when he was already flat on the ground. Furthermore, it also seems strange that it would take almost 45 minutes for anyone to call 911, although she claims it was down to shock. This is conveniently just enough time to concoct an alternative version of events and a solid story to give to the police. Okay, so you hear the argument, you step out. What's the first thing you see? Charles charging toward Laurie. Okay, had Tyler already gotten the bat? Did he already have the bat? Charles was coming toward Laurie, and I shoved him back. I said, "What are you doing?" because he was coming at her aggressively. He's a big dude, so I wasn't sure what was going on. So I shoved him back. What happened right after that? I went into the bedroom where I was saying, "Grand, my down," and then I came back and said, "Put that bat down." He said, "What are you going to do? Are you going to threaten me?" I said, "No, I'm just going to defend myself." So I put that bat down, and then he came at me. He had already hit me in the head. So you gave him. How many times would you say you told him to put that bat down? Once. Okay. And then he started advancing toward you, yes. How many shots did you fire? I fired a couple. One of Laurie's friends later reported that Laurie had said Alex believed her theories about Charles being possessed by evil. The reason he was at the house at the time of death was simple. He believed Charles was going to try and kill Laurie and moved in with her to help keep her safe. I didn't see the shot at her, and then I came back around and saw that he was on the ground and was freaking out. So I was just freaking out. I just went into Mama and said, I've got to go get JJ. I've got to get to the kids. I just left to see if they were okay. I didn't want them coming back into the house when all that was going on. Ty was looking at me with crazy eyes like, what just happened? And I told her, get in the car. We're going to take you to school. I just left. When you came back in and saw him on the ground, where was your brother? Did you see him? Yes, he was right in front of him. Did your brother say anything to you at all? Do you remember? No, we were both just in shock. I didn't say anything. I went out with the kids just to check on them first, and I was going to come back in maybe, but I didn't. I just had to get them to school and call the police. Did you or your brother say anything at some point about calling the police or calling 911? Do you remember? Yeah, he called me, and he said, are you taking G to school? And I said, yeah, we need to call the police. And he said, okay. So he called you when you didn't come back inside, basically, right? Because I was in the car for a minute, and I was like, what do I do? It looks on the surface that an enraged Charles stormed the house and started shouting at Laurie. Alex decided to intervene, fearing for his sister's life. But what started as a disagreement quickly turned into a fight, one that would end with Charles lying cold on the ground. Ty seems to back up what Laurie and Alex said when she tells her version of events. I opened the door, and it was my stepdad, and he was just screaming at both of them. So I just kind of stuck my head out there. Then he grabbed it, and I fell to the ground. I saw him take a step back. My uncle grabbed him and took him back so he couldn't do anything. My mom said to go with JJ, so I ran out the door and then kind of just stood there. Eventually, my mom came out, and then I heard a noise, which I know what it was now, but it sounded like someone took it and hit it really hard against the floor. I just wanted to make sure that my stepdad didn't do anything to my uncle and stuff. She was like, no, I was fine. We're just going to take Dee to school. And I was like, okay. Despite Charles's lack of a violent history and how many times Alex nearly slipped up on the scene, Laurie's story coupled with Ty Lee's perspective was enough for detectives to officially rule this as self-defense. But the death of Charles Vallow was just the tip of the iceberg. Investigators quickly discovered that Laurie had become entangled in the world of a seedy cult that would turn this seemingly perfect mom into a stone-cold killer. A reporter from East Idaho News asked her, "Can you tell me where your kids are? Where are your kids?" No comment. No comment. They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say. There was pressure from media, with people across the country praying for the children and demanding answers. Days after Charles's death, Laurie decided it was time for a change and moved the entire family across the country to Rexburg, Idaho. A strange choice at first until it was realized that this was the hometown of Chad Daybell. Laurie was now living minutes away from a man who had not only convinced her that her husband was evil, but was also beginning to spin the same evil stories for her kids as well. This is when detectives met Melanie, Laurie's best friend and another member of her cult. Melanie was there to spill all the details about their ideology and the beliefs that could soon lead to the death of Laurie's children. According to Melanie, it all tied into some complex beliefs. She said that it was some childhood friend that Charles had died and came back as an unclean spirit that got trapped on Earth and had been studying behaviors for years. Melanie elaborated, claiming that Charles had been pushed out of his body and his spirit was now moving on. These beliefs were confusing yet revealing, providing insight into Laurie's mindset. She believed Charles was possessed by a dark spirit and that he was no longer the same person. In fact, Laurie thought the same about her own children. Melanie claimed that Laurie believed Charles had turned the children into zombies, and discussions of this belief were interwoven with her belief system, prayer rituals, and other strange interpretations. Despite the cult-like ideologies, These revelations led investigators to question how much of this belief system had influenced Laurie's actions, and how far it would go. She thought they were powerful, and then he would check. "Oh, somebody died. Look, you can help find out." So then that was her way in. In my opinion, what I saw was just through a prayer that these people would pass away. Laurie believed that if the earth was to truly be pure, all the zombies had to be killed. Chad also began to feed Laurie more and more fantastical lies about how the world worked, including ascension, translation, and the ability to meet with God himself. Then they had a skill of 0 to 100% for how much you could trust people. I was supposed to be at 97%. They were always building me up anyway. She would sometimes share, "Oh, this person or that person is not trans. This person, that was their BL, what maybe you know or don't know. Vibrations. Yes, I'm aware of that too." According to how he would check, he used that little pendulum thing a lot. I didn't know that in the beginning, but anyway, 1000 was supposed to mean if you got to 1000 that meant you were translated, or you were beginning your translation. Then as you got higher in your vibration, you could portal at some point. Maybe. Remember what she would say, 2500 maybe, or something like that. The more you went, the higher your vibration would increase. It was like your light would increase your vibration, that kind of idea, if that makes sense. Laurie had become convinced she could speak to Jesus, and appeared to be consumed by Chad's work. Not long after their relationship began to heat up, they even started a religious podcast together, which showed, frankly, just how insane she had become. I too have seen the resurrected Jesus Christ, and he has told me my mission, and he has sent me to help people and lift them in their missions. Over time, Laurie had become more outspoken with her beliefs about zombies, and began to tell her friends about how many people had been consumed by evil spirits and demons. Laurie then started telling her friends that her son JJ's behavior had changed, and that he had started telling her he loved Satan as well as becoming more disruptive in the home. Had police listened to Charles Vallow when he feared for JJ and Ty's lives, they could have prevented the series of tragic events that followed. Only days after moving to Rexburg, Laurie, Alex, JJ, and Ty visited Yellowstone Park. This was the last time anyone saw Ty alive. Things became even stranger on September 17, 2019, when JJ was spotted running into his Idaho home on a neighbor's door cam, never to be seen again. Months later, people started to realize that they hadn't heard from JJ in a long time, and Charles's parents called 911 to alert the police of his disappearance. Laurie was caught lying to officers on November 26 after they had made a welfare check on JJ. According to Laurie, her son was with her friend Melanie back in Arizona. However, Melanie not only denied having him, but also told police that Laurie had asked her to lie and pretend to officers that JJ was staying with her. Then, in December, Alex died suddenly. His death was ruled as natural causes, but the number of deaths and strange occurrences involving Laurie was reaching impossible levels of coincidence. By this time, police were also extremely concerned for the welfare of JJ and Ty. So, Laurie was served an order in January 2020 to prove that they were safe and well. However, the deadline came and went, and Laurie was arrested 3 weeks later and placed on bail of $5 million. Even after the arrest, both Laurie and Chad remained silent and refused to give up any information about the kids. Finally, 5 months later, the police would get their answers when detectives initiated a search of Chad Daybell's property. There, they found the bodies of JJ and Ty. JJ's body was found wrapped in duct tape and placed in a plastic bag, while Ty had been dismembered and burned in a fire pit before being buried. Police arrested Chad immediately, and Laurie's trial began not long after. It took another 3 years, but eventually she was found guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and grand theft over the deaths of her children. Laurie was far from remorseful. In a bizarre statement she made to the court after being sentenced, she said, My beautiful children, Kaasian and Joshua Jackson, rest safely this day in the arms of Jesus, and I look forward to the day when we are all reunited, and I too will rest with them in the arms of my Jesus. Thankfully, this evil mother, if you can even call her that any more, won't be getting out any time soon. She was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences. She is not finished in the courtroom yet, though, as her trial for murdering Charles is set to begin in April 2024. As of March 2024, Chad Daybell is yet to go to trial but could be facing a similar conviction and a lifetime behind bars.